So I'm not sure if you know this already, but you've probably noticed that I'm quite a big fan of lighting, and there's different RGB going on over here at the moment, as well as this new guy over here, which is exactly what we're talking about in this episode. It's a budget LED panel, and the question is, how good is it and how does it compare to some of the other things that are out there? Let's do it. Before we start, I think it's important for you to know that I'm getting paid for making this review. Now, this doesn't affect my opinion on how good this light is, and as you can see, we're going to talk about the good and bad. But how this conversation went was, they sent me an email, said, would you like to review this? And I said, yeah, at some point I will. And they said, oh, can you make it quicker? And I said, no, look, I can't push it into the schedule because business-wise it doesn't make sense at the moment to make this review. And they said, what if we paid for you? And I said, sure, because you pay for this, I'm able to kind of pump you up the line of production and make the video quicker. Regardless, this is going to be unbiased review, talking about the good and bad, and they were happy with it, so here it goes. So if you want to see different sections of the review, check out this little, YouTube chapters on the below, so you can skip to different parts. But this is a very budget light, okay? So this comes in a kit of 2 lights, and they both come in a nice soft carrying case like this. And what is in the kit? There is 2 times light stands, first of all. You can see over here. So they're quite long light stands as well. They can be extended from 25 to 79 inches, which is 64 to 200 centimeters. So that is good. 2 of these are included in the package, as well as these light panels, obviously, with the barn doors, everything included. And what else you get? This is the DC power, and that is what's happening over here. As you can see on this angle over here, this is my hair light. Actually, I'm using the other one of these lights for my hair light, and I have been using it for the past few videos now. I'm not sure how many have you seen, but the past few videos, this has been the hair light, and it's plugged in the DC power and it runs straight down to the socket over there. And that's it really. In front of this LED, there is actual little diffusion kind of plastic layer over there as well, giving it a little bit of a diffusion as well. So let's talk about the specs. This LED light is a 24 watt in terms of power output, but if you want to know about the looks, we're going to talk about that in a moment. But there is 200 pieces of the LED little bulbs inside there. There is daylight and tungsten bulbs in there, which means that the color temperature of the light can be dimmed from 3200 kelvins to 5600 kelvins. The CRI for this light has been rated at 96 plus by the manufacturer, and it uses a 12 volt power to power this light, as well as a battery. There is 2 slots over here, so you can run 2 batteries over there to extend your light work time, but you don't have to use 2 to get extra power out or whatever. If you use 1, you perfectly get the same amount of power as plugged in or 2 batteries, so it doesn't matter which way you power it, the power output is going to be the same. Now let's go to the most important thing. Well, one of the most important things is the output of the light. So how much output does it take? And I compared it to 2 different lights over here, okay? I have this PFY matrix over here, and compared to this one, as well as this one, and a GVM, a bit more like higher grade light over here. This one over here is a 40 watt power, 24 watt power, and then this little PFY is 14 watts of power. So different kind of power outputs, but in terms of looks, what does it actually translate to? So you can see some numbers on the screen now about the lux power output for the 3 lights. It has been measured at 1 meter, all of these exactly the same settings, just change the light and then measured the output, what it was in the power output. So without the diffuser on the actual LED light over here, we're getting the max brightest output. What you can get out of it is 605 lux at 1 meter, and that is measured at 5200 kelvins. So if you're going to go up or down in the Kelvin range, you're going to lose a little bit of the output. At the highest or the coolest color temperature, we have 580 lux, and then on the lower end of the 3200 kelvins, we have 470 lux. We're losing more on the lower side than on the higher side meaning like cooler side is a bit more brighter than the warmer side. Now, when the diffuser has been applied, you can see that we're losing roughly around 100 lux on the actual output on 5200 kelvins, which is the brightest point we can measure the output, from 605 to 495, so roughly about 100. So this diffuser, we can now know that this fusion, putting it in there, is going to affect your brightness in about 100 lux minus. Now, comparing it to something like this Matrix Mini, actually this is not Matrix Mini, this is Matrix, the bigger version of the Matrix, and the 14 watt power output over here, and at 5200 kelvins we're measuring around 300 lux. Okay, so the brightest of this little light can do is 300 lux, but this one over here is a little bit more brighter. Now, if you look at the price range, then this one little light is actually more expensive than the whole kit of this light. I know this can do RGB as well, but sometimes the RGB is overrated, and what you actually need is just pure white light, what you use most of the time. And then this GVM light over here, the 40 watt power light, is measured at 740 lux on the brightest point of this light, which is 5200 kelvins, and in there we're actually gaining roughly half or 50% more brightness than this light over here, from 500 to 740. Then on the 3200 kelvins over here, we're not gaining as much on the GVM, going from 374, so roughly about 370, to 460, which is about 100 kelvins brighter. But then on the 5600 kelvins, the story is the same, roughly about 100 kelvins or 100 lux more brighter on this GVM than this Fositan one. Now, the thing to say here is that this GVM kit with the 2 lights and 2 light stands costs £210, where this one is almost half the price at £129 when Amazon voucher applied. So that is very interesting. And this Matrix Mini or Matrix is £140, so somewhere in the middle, a little bit more expensive than this light kit. So let's talk about some of the good sides first before we go into the bad sides, or what you need to also consider when looking at this light, or if you want to buy this. Okay, first of all, it's very cheap, and it's very hard to beat anything really at that price point in the market. There's some Viltrox lights or some newer lights, but even they are a little bit more expensive, or basically they're very competitive with the price over there. I'm looking just at the little things that I kind of like about the light when I've been using this and when testing it out, basically. Then in the back over here, when we look at the power on button over here, basically not a lot of lights have it actually labeled which way is the battery power and which way is the DC power. So basically in here I can clearly see that the battery power is with this 2 stripes, and then DC power is with 1 stripe. So also I like that the knobs in the back over here have a beginning and the end. So basically kelvins, you know, there's an end and beginning from 3200 kelvins to 5600 kelvins, which makes it very easy to quickly adjust it from beginning to end, rather than turn. Okay, a bit more, and you don't really know where the beginning or end is. I prefer it that way. The same story is with the dimming percentage. By the way, it can be dimmed from 0 to 100%, not from 10. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 100% can be dimmed. And the same story here, beginning and end point, completely hard points, full and beginning. Okay, let's put it to 1%. Next thing is that if you don't like to use the barn doors, they can be easily removed with these little thumb screws over here. Okay, you don't need any tools, just kind of screw them out, and then you can remove the barn doors very easily. Another thing I found is that the batteries in the back are hot swappable, so you can literally plug in another one and then plug the previous out without actually the output of the light turning it off. So that is a good thing. If you need to let this light keep recording for a long time, just swap the battery, get another one to charge, put another one in, get another one to charge. You can kind of use your batteries like that. If you are using this light in the night or a bit of a darker settings or darker situation, then this has a little smart light or little smart dimming LED in the back over here, that whenever you turn it, it's gonna press the actual backlight of the Oled display over here on, and then it's going to turn it off very soon quickly again. So if you're actually using it in the dark setting, it's not going to be very distracting for your eyes to see something there. There's constantly brightness, or you know, you can see a little LED over here. Sorry, it's OLED display. Go on, turn it off, and now there we go, it's off. Now this is not often the case with cheap LED lights, but with this one I'm quite surprised about the build quality actually, because you know, I'm using this falconized light over here, and this I would consider much higher kind of level of, you know, build quality. And even this GVM, the barn doors over the GVM feel plasticky, whereas this one is all aluminium alloy, which feels a bit better quality. I'm not saying that the GVM, the build quality here is worse. It is just like the barn doors over here don't feel as nice as these over here, which are full metal. I know this adds a bit more weight, but the build quality generally is very good on this light. And I mentioned this before already, but I think it's nice that there is no difference in output whether you're using batteries or DC power. And now let's talk about the bad sides, or some of the things you should know before buying the light. First of all, the color temperature of this light is changeable in 200 Kelvin increments. So you can go from 5600 and then the step down is 5400. There is no 5500 or 50% over there. So very kind of big steps in terms of the color temperature. The next kind of con is this diffusion in the front over here. The diffusion is very hard to remove, okay? So first of all, it's very hard to slide it out, because if you have the actual U shape of this bracket turned tight so that the light wouldn't move up and down, you can't pull it out, so you have to kind of open it a little bit to slide the diffusion past it. And then once this diffusion is out, or when you have both of these knobs over here tightened or not tightened so it can be slide off, it can easily just keep sliding and banging around inside the light. Regardless, I think a lot of people will be using this mainly with the diffuser on, because that leads me to the next point, is that if you use this light without the diffusion, you're gonna see some very weird shadows, which is a normal kind of thing when using these multi-LED panels where there's loads of LEDs inside. They start creating these weird shadows, as you can see on some of the B-roll over here, and I've never really noticed it as much as when testing this light out. It was very, very noticeable, all these like weird stepless or step kind of shadow that was going on. That's a little bit odd. When you put the diffusion on, it's all sorted though. Going on with, in terms of the light, there is a very distinctive magenta tint on the actual light. Regardless of being rated 96 plus CRI, there is a noticeable magenta tint on there. And this is not something that I most of the time notice with my own eye, but this time, whenever I turned it on first time, straight away the light, when you shine it down, looks a little bit more magenta, not just white. So as you can see on some of the B-roll over here, it's very clearly noticeable on some of the white things, or when you see it on the lens there, you can see that it is very, very magenta compared to this falconized, which I compared it to. Obviously, I consider this very like color accurate output over here, and put them both on the same Kelvin color temperature and the camera white balance on the same color temperature to literally measure what's the tint difference, and this one has quite a big magenta tint on the light. And one last thing is the remote of the light. Now, I've come to really enjoy having remotes for the lights, so if you want to control it somewhere remotely, it is not possible. You have to take your good old 2 feet and walk to the light, turn the light, walk back, check your exposure or your color temperature on the camera. So no remote. Okay, Lauri, so what are you saying? What is the conclusion over here? Are you saying should we get this light? Should we look into this light? Or should we just skip this light? So I'm kind of in the middle somewhere over here, because I am going to find use for this light in the studio over here, because I'm doing a lot of product shots and product B-roll, which is very nice when I'm putting all this light on top of the light and using it kind of like a main top angled key light over there, because I can put it quite close to the product and it doesn't really matter that it has a magenta tint on it most of the time. And second of all, because of the small light size and output, it's not going to look very soft. So it's not my type of lighting that I would do use this for. So I wouldn't use this for a key light, but what I would use it for is hair light, as you can see over here. And I'm gonna leave this up there. This is not just me, you know, making it up just for the review. This is actually going to stay there because it is just a white light, barn doors, and it gives me hair light over here. And it doesn't really matter that the tint is a little bit magenta, but it just works perfectly, and it's very, very cheap. Now, considering the price, it's very hard to get something better for the price. Now, you could get something for the more powerful output, which could be a better case at more, you know, sometimes. But in this case, I think you really have to know like what you're going to do with the light. If you plan to use this like as a key light or fill light even, I wouldn't use this. But if you want to use it for a hair light, for product lights, or close-up product lights, or some kind of effects with barn doors or something like that, then this is quite a good light and very, very cheap actually. Or if you want to learn about more lighting, or learn about, try out a little bit and test a little bit and have a little bit of a play around and not cash out loads of money, then it's a great option because you get the whole kit with it. You don't need any more light stands and things like that. If you plan to use this as like a bounce light from, let's say, you bounce it to the ceiling to get this nice soft light down, then that is not a good option for you either, because the output of this light is not very powerful. So if you do that, you're going to lose a lot of output by reflecting the light and making it soft. So it's not very good at that. So there we go. This is the Fositan light, and really think about what you're going to use it for. In some cases, it's a good light. In some cases, it's not so good. In my case, I'm going to keep using it as my hair light and some of the product lights, but you tell me, are you going to use that light? If you want to check it out, the link for this is in the description. Thank you very much guys for watching this episode of Tech Notice. If you are new here, consider subscribing. If you are one of these subscribers already, nice to see you here again. Let's meet in the comment section below. Fist bump to you, nice to see you here again. Hit the like button, it actually makes a difference, believe it or not. Subscribe if you haven't already, and you know, we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.